let's talk a little bit of Tetairoa McMillan, because you mentioned before that, Travis Hunter, you had a hard time with him. And I don't care about any of the Colorado putzes that keep DMing me saying, oh, well, they were in zone coverage half the time or whatever. That ain't my fault, man.
Not on that goal line. Not on that goal line, they weren't.
That doesn't mean anything to me.
When you got mossed.
At the end of the day, if you are the best DB, it's right there. You can't see it. You can just see your hand. There it is.
You got mossed, son. You got mossed. Let's go.
Yeah, it is. It is what it is. At the end of the day, it's this. If you're the best DB in the country and you want to be called the best player in the country, and you're going against the best wide receiver in the conference and you only match up with him 20% of the time, that ain't on me, man. It is what it is, bro, because TMac still finished with 100 yards, still had that nasty touchdown. This is a dude that, we're going to get into this in a second, this is a different level of player. So again, you can't say that's like the guy saying that, I could beat anybody one-on-one, but I refuse to play them one-on-one. Well, I don't know what to really tell you at that point.
Yeah, listen, I think TMac is obviously one of the best wide receivers in the country, top 3. If you want to make an argument, he could even be the top 1. And I would say that he is. But you don't have to take our word for it, right, Mike?
We don't have to take our word for it. Why don't we hear from Dino Babers, who's been around the block a little bit?
Going back to what you were talking about, where you don't really know about them until you see them, with that, even though he's been in a limited fashion, what's your impressions of TMac?
I've got like over 40 NFL wide receivers in the league, over 40 guys that became millionaires that I've coached in 36 years. I'm not sure I've met anybody like him. I'm not sure I've seen, the only person I've seen with catch radius like that is Larry Fitzgerald. And I'm not comparing him to Larry because he played 17 years. I'm just telling you, he's not normal. He may be better than everybody I've ever coached. We'll see, because I've coached some really, really good ones. He played really, really well in the pros. But from a college level, he may be better than all of them.
Listen, it was the pause for me.
Yeah.
Like when he was just like, he just kind of was thinking and just was, you could tell he was reflecting and kind of going through that Rolodex of all the players that he's ever watched and coached and seen play. And that's high praise. That's ridiculously high praise for a coach that hasn't even seen him in person in game action. He's just seen him in practice. That's remarkable.
I thought I'd go back to it. Lewis Riddick, who we like on the show, does a very good job commentating. He commentated a U of A game last season. I can't remember which entity it was, but he said the thing that TMac that just sticks out for you is you see a lot of these wide receivers where you're like, you don't know if they're a gadget wide receiver. You don't know what their role is at the next level, what kind of player they can be. He said with TMac, I watched film for about 2 seconds, and I said, that is a starting NFL wide receiver. I don't have to say he needs to be in the right system or anything. I can put that man in anywhere. And again, at the U of A, those guys don't come around all the time where you say, all right, well, if you run a really fast 40 time, then maybe you could sneak into the 3rd round or, whatever the case may be. With TMac, you know what you see what you know. And like you said, with Dino Babers, that was high praise just by the pause itself.
We've had guys at the U of A that could catch, had nice catching radiuses, but maybe their hands were just not really that great. We've had guys that could leap up and get it. We've had guys that are speed. We've had quick twitch guys. We've had a little bit of everything, right? But we've never had somebody that was such a complete package and such an undeniable, athlete to have to face out there on the field, like what you're seeing with TMac. Every single week, every single team is going to have to prepare to face TMac. We have not had that caliber of wide receiver ever.
Right.
Ever.
And I thought always before TMac came, I've always been a Dennis Northcutt guy. Dennis Northcutt, obviously Dino Babers was his OC here and caught for 1,400 yards as a senior at the U of A, went on to first pick in the 2nd round. This dude's just different. He's just entirely different because, again, that's also, you're talking about someone that's 5'10", 5'11". You're not talking about someone that is legitimately, and people need to understand this too. He is legitimately like 6'5" at least, maybe even taller than that. It's not one of these things where he's like 6'2" and 7/8 or anything like that. He is legitimately 6'5". I've got a bold proclamation for you as well, Saul Bookman, since you're throwing him out left and right.
Go ahead.
The combine, he's going to run in the 4.4s. Not only that, I'm going to say that he's going to probably run about a 4.45. And when he measures in at about 6'5", 218, 220 pounds, and he runs a 4.45, boom, sealed, done. Top 10 pick, my friend. Said it right here.
Yeah, if he's not a top 10 pick, I don't know what you're looking at.
Right.
What are we doing here? So
right.
T-Mac's gonna be a top 10 pick. He's just his abilities, and I love how the chat is kind of throwing out names of wide receivers who they really, really liked. Like Cindric Steptoe. You just mentioned your guy Dennis Northcutt. We've had some good, decent Mike Jones. Back in the day, like there's been some. Yeah, Mike Jones. 330. No,
I never heard of Mike.
281-330-8004. No.
Oh, no, I've never heard of him.
No? Are you serious?
Mike Jones.
Isn't it Mike Jones? Used to play for Wildcats? Mike Thomas. God damn it. Mike Thomas. Damn it.
I was going to say, man, Saul, if you're pulling out a name that I don't know, I'm going to feel like a real bonehead. Mike Jones. Okay, I see. Yeah,
my bad. Mike Thomas. Mike Thomas was dope.
Awesome. He was Money Mike.
Yeah. I mean, they were all great, but none of them were first round wide receiver. None of them were the caliber of talent. You can make an argument the best wide receiver in U of A history should have been Gronk, and he was a tight end.
Yeah. I mean, Gronk, Anthony Gimino always makes this point where he says, and I'm going to be curious to see what AG says about this. He always says, covering his time with football in the modern era, he said there were three guys that just came in that just looked different than everybody else. Chris McAllister, Gronk, and Chuck Levy was one back in the day. I'm assuming that he's going to add TMac to that list, but we will find out. We will find out. We will have Anthony Gimino on sometime, and maybe he will throw a bone there.